Farm subsidies, they are not why the US grows so much corn and soybeans, and I did a video on that recently and people had questions because Americans have been told for decades that subsidies are why we grow a lot of corn, soybeans, and other bulk crops. So if it's not subsidies, why do US farmers grow so much of those crops? The short answer, a lot of it comes down to tax policy more than farm policy the way people usually think of it. The long answer for why US farmers grow so much corn and soy is gonna take a hot minute. It comes down to how wealth works in agriculture. I did some posts on another platform that lay out the whole thing. Link is in the description. I'm just having to make a few short videos on it because I'm on the road a lot this week. Can't do it all at once. There will be a little bit of viewer Q&A at the end of this one, so if you asked a question on a recent video, stay tuned. So how people farm is mostly not about tradition or subsidies. It's about, again, how wealth works in agriculture today. You really got to look past they must be doing it like this because they've always done it this way. That's kind of a condescending way to look at agriculture. People do what they do and grow what they grow because it makes sense to them to do it this year that way. So let's put in some effort to try and understand that. And buckle up because this is not going to be your standard run-of-the-mill, we just need to fix the farm bill conversation. If there's anything in here that makes you go, wait, what? Go ahead and let me know in the comments so I can make sure and talk about it and subscribe so you don't miss it. Okay, with all that out of the way, how we talk and think about farms and money here in the US is very stuck in the past. Our mentality is farmers are poor because in the 20th century, that was true for many US farmers. That's why we've all been hearing our whole lives that farmers are poor. And it's why farm policy kind of became a euphemism for sending financial support to farms. One of the big ideas in 20th century US farm policy was parity. Parity is the idea that we should make sure farmers are making as much money as non-farmers as a group. And why was parity such a big deal? Well, it's because in the 20th century, the US was industrializing. Factories meant lots of new high-paying jobs, and in agriculture, all those good new jobs were actually seen as a problem. Because with higher urban wages, no sane young person would want to keep farming. They'd go get better paid jobs in the city. And without people to farm, there would be no food and big problems. That was the big concern. That's why US farm policy in the 20th century was obsessed with increasing farmers' income. And with that focus, it got really easy to blame everything that goes sideways in agriculture on farmers don't make enough money because it was often true. Now, there is way more to agriculture and why people decide to farm the way they do than just income. But the problems of parity and farmer income were strong enough in the 20th century to kind of paper all those other things over. So again, that's how farm policy became a synonym for finding creative ways to funnel money to farmers. Now sure, different interest groups wanted to give farmers money in different ways for different reasons, but nobody really questions the underlying assumption, which is we gotta get more money to farmers or else. Here's the problem. The US is a really different country than it was when we started thinking of farm policy that way. We're not an industrializing nation anymore, for sure. Wages have stagnated for decades, and the 1980s farm crisis, the big farm problem that our farm policy is still kind of low-key geared around, ended over 40 years ago. There are adults whose parents were born after the 1980s farm crisis ended. So with farm policy, we're stuck in a massive case of trying to fight the last war, not the one we're in now. US agriculture in the 21st century has a very different set of circumstances and problems than what 20th century farm policy was trying to solve, but we're still trying to do 20th century farm policy. So, to understand why farmers are currently growing so much corn, soy, and other bulk commodity crops in the US, we have to understand farmers' financial decisions. Who are these people? What's their financial situation even like? And what are they trying to accomplish financially with their farming? We tend to assume that every farmer's goal must be to maximize profit because farmers are poor and they must need more money. So let's start by unpacking that first of all. This might shock you, but US farmers have made more money than non-farmers every single year since 1998. Yes, after you take out farm debts and expenses. This is something that farm writers really should be more on top of because it's in USDA data that has been online available to the public for free for years. I put links to it in the description, and we will talk about how this change in income happened and what it means for farm policy. But first, let's finish laying it out. Yes, this includes small family farms. In fact, small family farms are not gone at all. They are the most numerous kind of farm in the United States. Over 89% of all US farms are small family farms. So any data on US farmers' wealth, by definition, will mostly be about small family farmers. And if we just look at small family farms, their median income and wealth are also noticeably higher than they are for most Americans. Small family farm households in 2023 had a median income of $116,000 per year and over $1.2 million in net worth. And yes, that is after farm debts and expenses. Let's compare that to the US at large, where the median income for most American households was only $74,202, and the median net worth was just a hair over $192,000. That means small family farmers as a group are making 50% more take-home pay than non-farmers after farm debts and expenses, and their net worth is over 6 times what non-farmers is. Again, that's after farm debts and expenses. So to put it another way, the median small family farm household sits around the top 1/3 of the US for income and the top 15% for wealth. And yes, most of that income is coming from a day job and not the farm. I do find that a lot of people try to explain this away, the off-farm income, with, well, the off-farm income doesn't really matter and it's not important because it didn't come from the farm. It is in fact super important. Remember that off-farm income because it is gonna come up again later. Now, is $116,000 a year extravagantly wealthy? No. But is it really solidly, comfortably middle/upper middle class? You bet it is. And that can be surprising, but it is real. And we better wrap our heads around it because we cannot come up with farm policy that makes sense if we are completely wrong about the basics of what's going on with farmers and their finances. Farmers in the US today are overwhelmingly not poor people. Here's some more important info. 98% of US farms are family farms of all sizes. Corporate farms are actually pretty rare. Most of the big, large-scale commercial farms in this country that people call corporate are multi-generational family-owned operations. That means if you want to understand agriculture in this country, big corporations really aren't everything. You'd better have a good feel for what's going on with household finances for farm families too. Because what actually gets grown on US farmland, in other words, basically our whole farm sector, hinges on the household finances of a couple million farm families. It's really important to understand how this works. And I think the fact that we don't really helps explain why so many non-farmers feel like agriculture is this mysterious no man's land where no one can really understand what's going on. It's because folks think they already know how it works. Farming is just a bunch of poor people who want to do what grandpa did. And when that can't explain things because it's not true, people are really quick to just throw up their hands and blame subsidies for everything that doesn't immediately make sense to them. That's kind of a cop-out. It is a cheap substitute for actually doing the work and figuring out what's going on. So that's what we're going to try and do here. This is going to be at least a 2-parter. I will be getting into the tax code stuff that drives a lot of the corn and soy farming in the next bit. I just wanted to get this basic finance stuff down because if I start talking about like, here's what's going on with the tax strategy that a lot of farm families use, people get real confused real quick and they wonder what the heck you're talking about. So if you want to see that future video on what's going on with corn and soy and tax strategies and how that drives so many people growing so much acreage of these commodity crops, comment, drop any questions you may have about that. Would love to answer them, and also subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Quick Q&A before I go. Someone on a previous video wanted to know why I said small farms don't really get farm subsidies. They pointed out that 90% of corn and soy acreage in the US is enrolled in a federal subsidized crop insurance program, and 90% means that a lot of small farms must be signed up. Don't worry, I got you. To catch everyone up real quick on what he's asking about, crop subsidies actually came under so much fire in the last couple decades that now a lot of that funding has shifted from straight subsidies into a federal farm insurance program. This insurance covers crop losses, but it also pays out just if your price is low. And instead of the farmer paying for that insurance, taxpayers pay for most of it. So basically, this subsidized insurance program is just guaranteed income. It's crop subsidies with more steps. So the reason I said that small farms don't really get subsidies like this, even though a lot of them are signed up under this income insurance program, it's because being enrolled in this program and actually getting money out of it are two very different things. As we can see from this chart here, and it's from 2021, so it's a little bit dated, but you can see the amount of money small farms are getting from these programs don't really keep pace with how many of them are signing up and how much acreage they're signing up. If I had to guess why, it's probably because these programs pay out per acre, so a lot of the farms signing up with small acreage are just not going to get that much money out of it if they make a claim. That's why people keep saying most of the subsidies go to bigger farms. They depend on acreage. The more acreage you have, the more you're going to get. And if you have small acreage, even if you do have a crop loss that you can claim crop insurance for, the payout just won't be that much. It's not necessarily worth filing unless you have a really serious crop loss in that case. There can also be enough tax advantages to losing money on a farm, depending on how you have it set up. That's another reason some operations might not claim an insurance payout even if they're eligible. So there's a lot to think about here. Lots to say on taxes. I appreciate y'all for sticking with it. Stay tuned for more. Y'all have a good day.